Hello again to the marketplace. Now, the Association of Ghana Industry AGI has confirmed that some industries are indeed planning to lay off some of its workers from next year. Some firms, included Pioneer, Food, Cannery, and TTP, have all confirmed that they might be forced to lay off workers because of the current economic conditions. Chief Executive Officer of the Association of Ghana Industries, Seth Juma Kwabwa, tells Joy Business something must be done quickly to halt the situation.
We've stabilized the power since the beginning of this year. Let us continue with it. If it comes down again, business confidence will be so low, and when it's affected like that, then it can also have an effect on further investment of local investors and foreign investors as well. So this Ghanaian, they can't resolve this power issue. So if I have planned any investment in the country, I won't even come at all because I don't know what is going to happen to me in the next couple of years. So we need to restore business confidence in that light, and therefore we should prevent it. And then, of course, once the power is not very reliable, the cost of production goes up because they must substitute that with generators and other things which are much more expensive than even the current situation. So I don't think it's good at all for businesses. If there's any plan for layoffs, I think that it's all about business confidence. If you're able to restore business confidence, if you're able to get interest rate regime and the macroeconomic environment that support business, I'm sure they will really look at it. Once they are confident that things will improve, I'm sure they would resign their decision. But at the end of the day, businesses operate on the basis of numbers. I look at my bottom line. Can I continue sustaining what I'm doing? If I cannot, I have no choice than to reduce. So we need to look at it on case-by-case basis. Going to the extent of actual layoffs, not many companies have told us about it, so we can't say that there are so many companies that are going to lay off people. The Pioneer Food Cannery one is an example you are citing. They've not written to us officially, but informally we've heard these things. Some of them have told us that they will need to carry out some reforms to be able to stay in business. So that is one or two cases that is going to happen.
Away from that, the Ghana cedi is yet to witness some significant stability on the interbank and forex bureau markets. This is despite the Bank of Ghana's decision to sell some $40 million to commercial banks last month. The following Business Desk report has more.
It was the expectation of the regulator that their action will result in some firm stability of the local currency. However, 6 days after this move to sell some $40 million to commercial banks, the Ghana cedi is yet to respond positively to this action. According to a report put together by SIC Financial Services, the cedi actually recorded some marginal stability on the day of the auction. However, it started depreciating again on the next day. Some financial research houses have put the cedi's depreciation from January to date at over 6%. $1 is likely to be sold to you by a forex bureau at around 4 Ghana cedis 30 pesos. According to some bank treasurers, the Ghana cedi has not responded to the Bank of Ghana's move because the challenge is fueled by real demand from businesses and not activities of speculators. Therefore, unless these demands are met, it might be difficult to actually halt the cedi's depreciation. Some multinationals have told Joy Business that they are struggling to get all their requests to the commercial banks. If the challenge should continue, it could increase the cost of living substantially. The Bank of Ghana recently increased the amount of dollars it's planning to sell to banks from $60 million to $120 million over the next 4 weeks.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Seth Tekpe is confident that the Bank of Ghana has what it takes to deal with the current challenge facing the local currency.
Say that a lot depends on exchange rate, but I think that there are global developments, the elections in the U.S., the Brexit, follow-up, issues, our own elections, and the fact that this is a season, when the demand for foreign exchange increases. But I think the last monetary policy, committee meeting, the governor did assure the nation that unlike when the three commodity prices were falling rapidly in 2013 and 2014, 2012 and 2013 and 2014, yes, we are not in a dire straits as far as the results are concerned. Moreover, cocoa revenues are still coming in tranches. We have not exhausted the inflow of cocoa revenues by way of foreign exchange to support the, Bank of Ghana does project some depreciation, but we do not think that we are going to see, rapid reduction. We've seen the cedi stabilize, in the past, and this is again like the debt management policy. It is backed by, various strategies.
Also on the marketplace, the Africa Center for Energy Policy, ACEP, has pointed out that the new administration must tackle as a matter of urgency challenges in the power sector since power supply from the nation's hydropower sources are still dim. Now, our correspondent Charles Aite is at the office of the Executive Director of the of the Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, KITE, Ishmael Ejikumihene. He is also an energy specialist, and he is going to discuss the options with him. Charles, take it up.
Hello. All right, so Emmanuel, I'm currently with the Executive Director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Environment, KITE, here in Accra, and he also doubles as an energy expert in that regard. He is in the person of Ishmael Ejikumihene. And as you have, stated in the introduction in the news bulletin, we shall be discussing issues related to Ghana's protracted energy crisis and how best the situation could be resolved, moving on to the incoming administration and several other issues that I believe that viewers will be much more concerned about. Thank you very much for your time on Joy Business. And first of all, we are ending this year with, situations related to, a burgeoning energy crisis. Although government has been able to stabilize the energy crisis for some time now, we're having issues related to financing, in as much as the administration, the NDC administration has, done well in investing in infrastructure. We're having situations related to finance, doubling up into the billions of dollars. How best do you think that government in the shortest in the shortest term could tackle this very situation related to finance and energy supply?
Well, I'm not sure there are any quick fixes when it comes to one's indebtedness. If you owe several millions of dollars, unless you're able to defer the repayments, like they were told they were going to issue bonds and have it paid over a period of time, then there are very little options than to look for money to not just run or provide the recurrent expenditure, but also to find a way of making sure that you've dealt with the debt situation once and for all. So in the short term, and I don't know what we define as the short term, we really must make sure that we have crude oil to run these plants. Ultimately, somebody has to pay for it, but we need to ensure that we have crude, because if the Jubilee fields are going to be shut down because of the FPSO, the problem with fixing the FPSO, so it means that we need more crude, light crude oil, to power the thermal plants. The good news now is that we do have installed capacity. We do have the plants. If we have the fuel, we should be able to keep the system running. All
right, so not to cut about, what do you think would be the best strategies that we could use in order to finance these debts?
Well, as for the debt, somebody has to pay. The bottom line is that the utilities are owned by government. Their VRA is 100% state-owned. ECG is 100% state-owned. So when a business is running at a loss, normally it's the owners who are supposed to recapitalize the businesses. I doubt if our governments will have the money to clear all those debts. So I think the strategies are what they are trying to do with the banks, which basically is saying that let's try and turn all these debts into bonds over a period of time. So that's what I believe they are renegotiating with. If we had options, I would have said that let's clear those debts by paying directly, so that the utilities can be made to stand on their own and start on clean sheets, once we are determined not to repeat the mistakes that brought them to where they are in the first place. But in the absence of the ability to just pay off significant proportions of these debts. We may have to settle with these bonds that they are trying to do, but there are pressing cash flow situations like getting money to buy the crude oil that we need whilst the Jubilee fields are down because of the FPSO problem.
All right. So now let's sum the whole thing up. And we shall be doing that by tackling the issue related to matters of how best, whether or not government would have to renegotiate various deals with the IPPs in that regard.
It depends on the nature of the agreements. If there are what normally they call stabilization clauses in this agreement, what that means is that you can't vary the terms of the agreement to the detriment of whoever is a contract holder. So it depends on exactly what clauses we have in there.
All right.
But
okay. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. So that happens to be Ishmael Ajakum Hene. He is an energy expert and executive director of the Kumasi Institute of Technology and Energy there, discussing issues related to the current energy crisis and its relation to business in terms of the effects and how best government and the incoming administration could, suffice these challenges. Over to you, Manuel.
Thank you very much, Charles IT. Away from that, telecoms giant MTN says it has systems in place to avoid any serious disruption to services. The assurance follows a major interruption in its voice and data services last night, which made it difficult for subscribers in some parts of the country to make calls and access internet on their handsets. But MTN is attributing this challenge to a problem with its technical internet protocol system, which supports data and voice calls. Mohammed Rufai is Chief Technical Officer at MTN Ghana.
As you know, the signals we carry your voice calls on transmission, what we call transport. So we transport your calls on the IP network using the IP protocol. So it's internet protocol that we use to transport your calls around. So this particular node controls the movement of those calls, and that is what had a problem, and we activated the redundancy, which the node was fully redundant anyway, so we quickly brought in the redundancy to restore the service.
Explain to me, what measures have you put in place to ensure that for me as a subscriber, my concern is that I will not experience this thing again? Or what do you have in place, or do you have the systems in place to ensure that we don't witness this thing again?
All our critical nodes have redundancy. All our critical network elements have redundancy, meaning we have at least 2 of each critical network element. So we have invested significantly to make sure that nothing is linear or nothing is a single point of failure. And I can assure our subscribers that our redundancies are always on standby to be activated if we have any failure at any time.
So one would say that I shouldn't expect that this challenge would happen again. The economists will say all other things being equal.
You shouldn't expect this kind of challenge to happen again. We are investigating, and we are going to put all the measures in place to make sure that this kind of problem does not occur. As I said, there was a redundancy in place, and we moved to the redundant side. We are investigating to shorten the period within which redundancies can be activated so that subscribers will not experience any disruption.
Some of your subscribers are also mad at you that during that process, nothing was communicated to them that this is the problem. What really also happened in that light?
I would have loved to engage our subscribers immediately the problem happened, to inform them that we're having this issue, but we couldn't send messages to our media partners. We couldn't also get in touch with them via other sources. And as soon as we could, we did put out a message out there to let our subscribers what has happened and what we have put in place, what we are doing to minimize the impact on the subscribers and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Now, it has always been argued that the rate at which government borrows from the market often serves as a benchmark for interest rates. Therefore, with recent consistent decline in treasury bill rates, that should have come as good news for businesses. My colleague George Riafe is standing by to tell us more about the real situation on the ground. George.
So we have to basically, if I can explain to you, basically what is causing this and is that So basically, government actually, the cost at which they borrow from commercial banks influences the rate at which other commercial banks also lend to you. So we were expecting that because interest rate or treasury bills has been trending down slightly, that should impact on the cost of credit, but it looks like that is not happening. Other reasons that have been attributed to this is that there's some kind of credit squeeze on the market, and that is why we are actually witnessing this challenge. So it looks like it might take a while before you see these rates actually coming down. But I've been speaking to the managing director of HFC Bank, Robert Lehand, who has been explaining to us why it has taken some time for these rates to actually come down.
But it happens. I mean, for information, the banks set their minimum lending rate, all right, based on a formula given to them by the Bank of Ghana. A big component of that formula is the T-bill rate. So the minimum lending rate, which you must understand banks are compelled to have to do, is driven to a large extent by that T-bill rate. Now that the T-bill rate is falling, you will see, based on that formula, the minimum lending rate to banks will actually also fall. So it has just happened, and therefore I expect as banks go meet in their ALCO meetings, which happens in most banks probably once a quarter or once a month, you will actually see that minimum lending rate actually coming down. So I expect that it will happen soon.
Thank you very much. That was the managing director of the HFC Bank trying to basically explain to us why it might take a while before you see those rates coming down, because treasury bill rates are actually trending down. But you know, we've also been engaging the managing director of ADB Bank, Daniel Asiedu, who actually believes that, listen, banks cannot be accused of not doing that much to see their cost of credit or interest rate actually come down.
We're right to say that the banks are not responding. First of all, I think a few years ago, Bank of Ghana came up with a formula for calculating the base rate, which is the minimum we lend to the general public. And you discover that a very major component of that formula is the TB rate. Every time the TB rate drops, it affects our base rate. And we are mandated to review our base rate on a monthly basis. And when you compute it, it's transparent now. So when you compute it and it drops or increases by a certain basis points, then you are supposed to publish. So it's automatic. What has happened is that I think the rates just dropped in less than maybe 3 weeks ago. And so it would take time because, again, a lot of these facilities have been locked in. It is when we are repricing that becomes obvious. So it would take a while. But almost immediately you see banks repricing their base rate because we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. That's one. Two, I've always argued that, look, how many banks do we have in this country? Plus the banks plus institutions holding banking licenses that have not started operation, maybe about 33, 34. In our market with 34 banks, we are under a lot of pressure. So the only way we can survive is to make sure that we are competitive. If you come to me and my interest rate is high, I can assure you that by the time you walk down the street and you go to the next bank, because they think you're a good customer, they will do all that they can. There's a transaction we have done. I have approved everything for this customer and all that. And then the other bank that this customer deals with goes to say, no, we can never allow you to move because we think you're a good customer. And suddenly the bank is saying, okay, I'm ready to even do better than what this other bank is offering you. So competition will force us to be reasonable in terms of our pricing. But like I said, I don't think it's a case of we not deliberately coming down, but it's a case of we repricing at the appropriate time.
So the managing director of ADB, Daniel Asiedu, trying to explain to us why it might take a while before the rates come down. It looks like the debate would actually rage on as in when will be the time that we'll see all the commercial banks dropping their interest rates. We have for you and I actually, yeah.
from in front of SG Bank, Akokomlemle. This is George Wiafe. Over to you, Wiafe.
Thank you very much, George Wiafe. Now, moving on still on the marketplace, traders in Kumasi are set to have reduced prices of general goods as they continue to celebrate NPP's victory in last week's election. Joy News checks reveal products have dropped by between 5 and 10%, especially for clothing and beauty items.
A visit to some market centers in the city reveals some retailers are even selling at wholesale prices. The traders, who are in a jubilant mood, believe the incoming government will effectively manage the economy.
Yeah, the reason I'm
I have reduced the prices. I am doing that because I feel Ghana is relief of a burden.
Customers also buying numbers, so I'm really happy. This will be every year. So
at first, I was selling for 75 cedis, but now it is 74 cedis.
Oh, for now, 75 cedis. Say me about 74.
I've reserved a special cloth to give to my customers this Christmas.
Hey, and the Anyasam Kotokra, and the Niama Medeba
Emra na wini yanu. Utu say umudrono. Eswati ma phone say why ha. Ani je bi wura ye ntimi kura mi gina hoi. Ade a medeje say 100 kura. Na na ho ani je ntino. Woni ya ba ma chen 2 cedis, 4 cedis. Fakwa esan say ye hu beto ye.
No.
Yes, so you prefer say abano sisan.
We preferred a change of government, and it came, and we have reduced the prices. Importers have also maintained prices due to fears of unstable currency exchange rates.
We could not reduce
the prices. We are looking forward to a stable dollar. Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Debra.
All right, so that's all we have for you in this afternoon's edition of the Marketplace. Many thanks for your company, and do join us again same time tomorrow for other interesting stories in the world of business. Meantime, you can always stay interactive with us by tweeting at Joy Business GH is our handle, and on Facebook, Joy Business is our page. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Wiafe. Have a good afternoon.